Ladies and gentlemen, welcome to the PrincipalCast podcast, coming to you live from the birthplace of Rocky Balboa in Philadelphia, Pennsylvania, with your host, Jeff Bradbury.
Welcome, everybody, to the episode 2 of the PrincipalCast podcast, hosted by Teresa Stagger, Jessica Johnson, and myself, Dr. Spike Cook. PrincipalCast is a weekly roundtable discussion about current topics in education leadership. For more information, please visit www.principalcast.com. There are many different ways that you can contact PrincipalCast. Besides our website, we have an email it's info@principalcast.com. You can follow the hashtag PrincipalCast, and we're on Twitter as @PrincipalCast. We have weekly discussions and updates, and we are really happy to have everybody here this week. Episode 2 of the PrincipalCast is making sure that we are keeping principals connected and learning together. If you have show ideas, we have a Google Doc that we will be sharing with you later on, or you can always tweet us, or have any questions, you can email us. So the first thing we're going to do is discuss what's been happening. We're going to start with Jessica Johnson. And Jessica, if you could just share with us a little bit what's been going on with your week.
Yeah. Well, my week is now surviving with Kleenex and cough drops because you two got me sick somehow on Boxer. I don't know how that works.
I'm still trying to figure out how that's even possible.
Yeah, no.
But I don't doubt that it happened.
Just, getting through another week of MAP testing, surviving homecoming. And I just wanted to share that next week I will probably not be on the podcast because I'm going to be arriving in Indiana. Amber Tiemann and I are joining Todd Whitaker, and we're speaking at the Indiana Principal Leadership Institute. So I'm going to ask for your help, everybody, to follow that hashtag next Monday, IPLI, as we try to get all of those principals on Twitter and connected.
Yes.
Very cool. What's been happening in your world, Teresa?
Well, I think I started the sickness wagon. I think I gave it to Jessica and Spike throughout the week. But my week's been pretty good. It started off really horribly. I walked into school on Monday with the teachers flipping out because we didn't have internet. And normally that's not a huge deal, except that we don't have phone lines in our classrooms because the building is so old. So we use iChat to message or iMessage to go back and forth between the classrooms. So not having internet is, you might as well just go ahead and cut off all communication to the rest of the world. So I spent a couple days doing that. But after that ended, I just found out our iPads will be delivered on Thursday, so that's really exciting. And then I was able to, we had a professional development session on Friday with the entire, we're through the Archdiocese, because I'm at a Catholic school. And it was a great session on Common Core. So that was exciting. But that's about it.
Very cool. As for me, I had, I guess it was a busy week. It's, I guess, our second full week of school here in New Jersey. We had back to school night earlier this week, which I thought was a big hit. I really enjoyed back to school night. It's an opportunity for the parents to come out and interact with the teachers. We had a lot of cool things to show off this year, which we focused on innovation. And I shared a lot of the information that I shared here on the podcast last week with the parents. And they were excited. They loved our new videos and some of the other things that have been happening over the summer, like our renovated cafeteria, gym floor, Wi-Fi throughout the building, new computers in the computer lab. So we had a lot to show off. We were very proud. And the teachers enjoyed themselves. Although it is a long, long night, I think overall everything went really well. We had an assembly this week. We had a gentleman come in to talk to the kids about the fundraisers that go on and the safety that you need to implore when you're going out and soliciting, the fundraising materials. The kids really liked, all the different the toys and stuff that they could get, and one of those things was that, that's like that ball thing. It has a little electricity going through it. And of course, during the assembly, I grabbed it and pretended like I was getting electrocuted. So that was pretty cool. And then we are rolling out a new reading program. We actually got picked to do a pilot for the reading program, Reading Street through Pearson.
Oh,
and,
cool.
Yeah, dare I say I'm a huge Pearson fan. But I will definitely say that this has been a monumental task because at first we were just going to do resources, and now it's full tilt. We are trying to use the program with as much fidelity as possible to research to see if it'll be something that'll impact the rest of our district. So, that was, like I said, a busy week. A lot of time spent in my office getting things together, and not as much out and about as I'm hoping this week will be. So, as we normally transition into the question from the newbie, as we dubbed Teresa, when you listen to Teresa speak, it's like you don't think that she's a newbie, but she is in only her second or third week of being a principal.
That's the truth.
We're not really going to go with necessarily a question from her, but one of the discussions that she brought up during the week when we utilize Voxer all the time is to discuss with everybody, social media for school communication with parents and community. And I think that's where we're going to be going with this tonight. So, Jess, did you want to kind of touch on that and talk with everybody about how you're utilizing social media to connect with parents and community at your school?
Sure. We have a school Facebook page, and I just post things throughout the week, informational. Not a whole lot, and I landed on Facebook because I did actually a survey of our parents, and none of them circled Twitter. They're all on Facebook, and I definitely get more interaction from parents via Facebook. I'm positive that more of them read what's on Facebook than the newsletters that we send home. So we're not huge on what we have for social media. It's just the Facebook there. There are a few student groups that also have their own Facebook page. Teresa's really become the whiz at using all kinds of social media tools for her parents.
we had I was going to bring this up later in the podcast, but we actually had today, in fact, just before the podcast started, I had to start pulling our social media out. We had our back parking lot repaved, and they were filling the cracks and then repaving the parking lot. And they were supposed to do it Friday way to professional development day, so we weren't in the building, and then Saturday and Sunday, and they were supposed to have it done by Saturday at 4 o'clock so that it would be okay for mass. But we had huge rains here on Friday, and so it was delayed. So we had to change our drop-off pickup procedure for tomorrow morning because it was supposed to be done. And so I sent out, we have something called School Reach, which is through Power School. If you use Power School for your attendance / grading, etc. But School Reach allows you to send a message to all of your parents, any of your stakeholders, anybody who is on this. It's kind of like a Remind 101, except you add them to the list, and you can send out an email, a phone call, a text message all at once, and then it shows you who's received it, who hasn't. So we sent that out, and then I sent an email, or I put it on the website and on our Facebook page. And then I sent an email to the staff and to the school board and said, please make sure that you share the Facebook status on all of your pages, because we can't have parents driving into the parking lot tomorrow. They're going to get stuck. It's not dry yet. So if you have Power School and you don't have the School Reach program, it's definitely something to look into. It's a very nominal fee per student per year, but we've used it twice already, and it's so worth it.
So, Teresa, do you have any policies or guidelines that you have to follow through your district in regards to social media and, specifically Facebook, Twitter, all that kind of stuff?
We have, it's because we're in the Archdiocese, it's a little bit different because we're a Catholic school. So we don't have a school board or a district. The only thing that we have to be careful of is any of the question or any of the, sorry, I was reading the chat. Simon said it was a good question, Spike. We send out a waiver at the beginning of the year. All the parents have to say that it's okay for they don't have to say that it's okay for them to be put on the school reach. They have to opt out if they don't want to be a part of it. And then we also have a thing that goes home for the students, and it's in the registration packet. And at the very bottom it says whether or not we can use their names for, I can't remember what the bottom one is, but the first one is being able to use their pictures for promotional material, social media, etc. So they say yes or no. And we have, I want to say there's at least one student in every class that we can't use their picture for one reason or another. So we have the teachers know who that is, and we have it posted in the office so that we make sure that those never go out. But other than that, we don't really have anything archdiocese wide.
Yeah, Teresa, ours is very similar, and actually Simon Miller just asked that question about how do you handle, now the chat's going so fast, how do you deal with social media or the comments on Facebook and then the ones that opt out for social media? And ours, right. It sounds like our form is very similar. Actually, we copied from some other district, and I can't think of which one right now. And it is very general, like, it lists quite a few things, but when they sign it and return it, it's opting out of anything really. And this was the first year that we did that, where it's, listed all of those things. And so some parents like right away were like sending it back because they're so used to, signing everything. So right. Then I made this quick little slip that says, just making sure basically that this is if you do not want your child's picture, and then so we stapled it and sent them all back home, and it only got about 15 for the whole school back. Yeah. And so the way that I handled that is because I'm taking a lot of pictures and putting them on Facebook all the time. I had my secretary type that up in a Google Doc for me, so that way I always have it wherever I'm at, and then I can just see which kids are on there, and not include them in the pictures. And then Simon also asked about how to handle Facebook comments, which we talked about this last week, and the three of us have talked about this extensively on Voxer and dealing with comments. I've recently had this issue, and it's just, we have a page set up, so parents can't just post anything. They have to respond in a comment to a picture or a status update. But I had a parent who was I'm thinking probably didn't realize the difference between sending me a direct message and posting things for everybody to see, because I was getting them both ways. So I actually hid the comments and then had a conversation with her about, this page is for informational purposes. If you have a concern, send that direct message to me, not post it on the Facebook page for everybody.
Yeah, I mean, I look at like our foray into social media, and it's been like probably within the last 2 or 2.5 years that we've been looking at that in our district. And my superintendent is super progressive. He's on Twitter, he's on Facebook, he's blogging, and he's also gone to a lot of the major conferences to listen to various speakers. And so his philosophy is to keep it as open as possible. So they're not like specific policies or board policies that we have, because he and I actually attended a session with Steve Anderson, who basically said that most of your existing policies will be suffice when you're looking at social media. So for instance, you guys talked about like the kids getting their pictures taken and whatnot. So we previously had a media release file. So like if the Daily Journal or a local newspaper came to take pictures, we would know what kids were not on that list. I personally took that a step further because we do a lot like on our blog, our Facebook, and Twitter, and just took that to the next level. And now we have a lot of teachers who are doing the same thing. So I just put a sort of a appendix on there to say we will be releasing it in these specific areas, which are YouTube, Facebook, Twitter, Pinterest, any of the major ones. And most of the time, everyone, is okay with that. There's a few, like you guys said, like maybe in every class, and the teachers are cognizant of that. I mean, I saw like for instance, the other day I was in class and we were doing a video in one of my fourth grade classes, and there were 3 kids that were on that list. So they were just sort of taken out of the shot a little bit, and then later on, they were part of it, but it was like their backs were to the camera and stuff like that, where they were holding the camera. So the teacher was really cognizant of that and wanted to make sure that they're part of that. But I think most parents, like if they're asked, it's funny, if they're asked to be in the newspaper, they're good with that. I think social media, it's a little bit different, but I certainly think that the way that our superintendent looks at this and the way that he works with the board is that we really haven't had a lot of those issues, and if we do, it's dealt with in a more of a learning aspect. Like let's not shut everything down just because we've had a problem on social media.
Right. Spike, there's some really good conversation happening in the chat room, so I want to jump in. We discussed about the certain people that can't, that say no, that their students, their children can't be. Sometimes it is sometimes it's an issue with a custody battle, things like that, where the kids just can't be, there's a problem where one parent has full custody and the other, sometimes it's a big legal issue, but sometimes, like you said, it's a fear of not knowing. Peggy says, I've heard Kathy Cassidy talk about how she handles that with her first, oh no, every time you guys add something in the chat box, it goes back to the beginning.
I know, I had that same problem.
I've heard Kathy Cassidy talk about how she handles that with her first grade parents, and they always approve once they see actual examples and know how she supervises, monitors, and uses it. And that's totally true, because it is, it's once people see, I had parents in my office the other day asking about how we use it, and once they understood that we're sharing student work, we're just trying to show what happens in the classroom, they're more than about to do it. Peggy says, same thing, some are just afraid, they really don't understand. Simon Miller says, Simon says he feels strongly about this topic because student work and achievement needs to be shared, and that's absolutely true. Paula Noggle came into the chat room and says, Peggy had one parent one time refuse to sign a release to allow her daughter to live tweet from a field trip. The parent chaperoned the field trip, and when she saw the event in action, rushed up to me and asked if she could sign the permission. Unfortunately, it was too late as all the slots had been filled, but parents' fear definitely changed.
And those are really, really good questions. And I think, like when you take a look at this, like, and then there's even the other fear, like, I don't know if you guys have this, but we're in a rather large district, so there's also the fear of the administrators or teachers getting involved in this. So early on, when I call it like the Wild Wild West of our school district, there was a couple people that jumped on, and actually one of the vice principals got hacked somehow, some way. Her Twitter account got hacked. And the superintendent was amazing about it because he knew that she wouldn't post these things, and so they tried to, go through, find out who it was. They weren't able to. They were able to shut the Twitter account down, and he also was, trying to tell her, like, just because this happens one time, that doesn't mean that you should give up on all social media. Social media is not bad, So once again, I feel like we're working in a environment where the superintendent is trying to look at this as a learning experience as opposed to, sort of a gotcha, or one problem happens and we close everything down. Have you guys ever had anything like that, or anyone that you've known that's had, problems with, their account getting hacked or anything like that?
I never have, but I remember, Spike, your blog post, like, I don't remember, a year and a half ago or something, with all the things you encountered, and I just died laughing reading, like, when somebody hacks into your account, I mean, unless you're a Twitter newbie like Spike was at that time, that, look at these horrible pictures of you on Facebook, or people are talking about you over here, and like Spike freaked out about who's saying bad stuff about him, and I guess I knew that right away, so I get those DMs all the time, and I just ignore them, but unfortunately that's when people get hacked, and that's one of my favorite blog posts.
And all of a sudden, all of your parents and stakeholders that are following your Twitter account are being sent information on how to lose weight in 14 days.
Yeah.
I'll tell you what, though, I'm glad you brought that up, Jessica, because I was thinking about another situation happened. But yeah, I got a DM from Matt I think it was Matt Renwick.
And you got to trust Matt Renwick.
Yeah, but I was new to it. But it was one of those things like, hey, they're saying really mean things about you. I'm like, really? And I go and click the link, and then it was blocked by my organization. And then we went through this whole thing, and we got IT involved, and they were like, oh, that is a bad link and a bad place, And it was like somewhere in Russia, of course, And yeah, but there was like a good 20 minutes there where I'm thinking, oh, why did I get involved in this? Like, I put myself out there. I'm so glad you reminded me of that. And then I actually called Matt on the phone. I'm like, is everything all right?
Oh, poor Spike.
Yeah, and then I blogged about it too, But I think that also happened to Chris Wedger.
Yeah.
I don't know if you guys follow him, but there was something that happened with him, and I remember him blogging about that as well. So anyway, Teresa, do you have anything else that some people are asking about?
Well, here's a question that came up today from Jeff about whether when a school is having a Facebook account, should all of the clubs and activities have access to that one Facebook account, or should they have separate Facebook accounts, which I just thought was an interesting topic, and I'll just share up my opinion that which isn't right or wrong. It just really depends on what your school and your community wants. But I'm just thinking that if you have a lot of teams or groups that are going to be sharing information to that Facebook page, parents might get bombarded with the amount of things being shared versus if they just want to follow the football team's Facebook page and just the whatever Facebook page, then they'll only get the things that they want versus if it was everybody sharing onto that one, and if there's too much information they might stop checking it.
We have like I said, it's a rather large district, so there's 11 different schools. So you can imagine, all the different departments and all the different activities and stuff that are going on. And right now, it's not regulated in the sense that we have one particular way of doing things. It's very much left open to each of the principals or clubs or however you want to frame it. So we have our own Facebook page. It's monitored by there's about 3 or 4 of us that are monitoring that, so we can post as that Facebook page or ourselves. And it's usually those teachers who are the ones that are blogging and they want to get their blog posts out. I don't use it too much for announcements and stuff because honestly a lot of our parents aren't necessarily on it as much as we're trying to kind of share everything throughout the world. But my take on that is that I like it that way as opposed to having one major Facebook page for. I mean, there's 2,000 different staff in our district, all the different schools. I mean, I just think after a while, if one, sort of governing Facebook account, I just think it would limit our freedom to kind of respond to our consumers. I don't know. What do you think, Teresa?
We have, when I was in the district that I was in before, we had a Facebook page for every single but it was a really large school. We had a big district. There were 2,200 kids in the school. So we had one for band. We had one for sports. It was everything. Whereas the school that I'm in now is very small, and we have one Facebook page that brings student activities, et cetera, et cetera, et cetera on it. And I understand Jess's point, and I agree with it because once there's too much information, people stop to check. However, like in our school, it makes so much more sense to have it all in one place because when it gets, just like when we had all the chat windows last week, when there are too many places to continue checking, you just don't want to check anything because it becomes too difficult to try to figure out, like tonight when there was something wrong, we had to get the information out before school started. Do you put it on all of the pages? Do you just put it on one of the pages? Do you put, it becomes difficult if you need to get information out quickly to make sure that everyone gets it. I do want to throw in a couple of things that are happening in the chat room right now. Paula is saying that trying to figure out why the school district had each school create a Facebook and a Twitter account, but they blocked them at school. And that is that's something that actually we dealt with in the school that I was in before. Jess just asked if teachers can access Twitter and Facebook. The school that I was at, we could access the same things that the students could access. And there was no Twitter, no Facebook, no WordPress, no EduBlogs, no nothing. And the reason that I was given was that anything that would allow the students to communicate with each other would be blocked. There you go.
Yeah, well, and
Right.
we're dealing with that. I mean, we're dealing with that in a way that it is about educating, I think, the IT department, because and I think a lot of times I have to take on that role as, wait, this should be open, and right now the social networking is not open right now to the kids, but it is for the teachers and the administration. IT's explanation for a while was that it was just supposed to be only open for the administration. So I found that really troublesome, because I was working with a teacher, and we were prepping for a PLC meeting, and we went on Pinterest, it was blocked. We went on SlideShare, it was blocked, and I'm like, this goes on? Like, this is I thought it was all open. So it had to go up above IT into the superintendent, who said, I've never said that should be blocked, So IT, I think, and a lot of times what they do is they say, well, we're talking about bandwidth, we're talking about usage and all this other kind of stuff.
And what I've learned is you need to just keep in mind that they're IT people. They're not, and I'm totally generalizing, just from talking with other districts and going through this battle too, because we had everything under the sun blocked as well. But they know the laws for what students should be able to have access to and what they shouldn't, in terms for you to get your whatever funding that is, I can't remember, and they look at bandwidth, they're concerned about the school getting in trouble. So I spent many years trying to continuously sharing the information on why social media is valuable for staff learning, for sharing the communication with parents, and it took sharing information from other great people. Even though I was saying the same thing, when Eric Scheninger says it means more. Or, when we went to the Slate conference and they heard other people saying it meant more than just me saying it. So for me, it took several years of constantly sharing that information to us to get to this point. But yeah, Paula, I mean, I kind of laughed when I saw that you said you have a school Facebook and Twitter account, but it's blocked for the staff. I would just keep asking those questions. Why is it blocked? Are you concerned that staff are going to abuse it? Because then, maybe the staff need to be educated on what the use is for it. And, I myself as a principal said, if any of my staff are abusing that, then I will deal with that. But I trust my staff to be professionals and, let them have access to that.
Yeah, I mean, I think you're right, and I'm so glad that Paula's on. I love Paula. I did a post on her, this summer, and she's such an awesome woman. And Paula, missed you at the BAMIs. That's the first time I met you was last year, and I saw that you were there this year, so I hope you had a great time. But yeah, they should be listening to Paula. I mean, come on. But you're right, though, Jessica. Sometimes we do need to have those resident experts, like Eric Scheninger or Steven Anderson or whatever, that can come in and say the things that that we've been saying, so that everyone can sort of get along and say, okay, well, the expert says it's okay.
All right. One other question. I was just laughing at Craig Yen talking about needing the sanity to play Candy Crush while connected to Facebook during downtime. I'm so glad you said that, because I'm hopelessly addicted to that stupid game. Anyways, okay. One other question is that the concept of tweeting the morning announcements was mentioned on the Tech Educator show. Any thoughts? I do know of, bless you. Grab your Kleenex. See, that's how I got sick. You sneezed into Boxer.
I'm so sorry.
Unacceptable. Unacceptable.
And I'm just speaking, knowing a district that is just down the road from us. They went to BYOD in their high school, and many of their teachers and administration, everybody got on Twitter, and they have gone to tweeting out, the lunch lady tweets out the lunch menu, and the teachers tweet out the homework, and any other announcements are tweeted out. And their kids, at lunchtime, they've got their phones out, but they're like checking Twitter, and they're checking a lot of the school announcements. So I just thought that was really cool that they were doing that, because because, if you're a BYOD school, your kids all probably have smartphones anyways. What a great way to meet them, because quite honestly, when the announcements are going on, they're not listening to them.
Nope. No, they're not.
The one thing that we just found with our new web filtering system, and so we have Wi-Fi in our building, but if you are bringing in your own device, even as a staff member, you cannot access the same things as if you are accessing it from a district supplied either laptop or desktop. So right now, that's the new battle where a lot of my teachers are saying, wait, I just took a picture, I wanted to throw it up on Twitter, and it's blocked. And I'm like, well, they have very specific policies now based on this new web filtering system that really limit the amount of things that a quote-unquote guest or a device that's not supported by the district can do. So then there's that. So are there any other questions before we move on? We're at the 30-minute mark here.
Yeah,
so
I think Paula says she does things first and then tells her admin the success stories after she's done it. Tweeting, Skyping, blogging. She just jumped in and did it, and then explained to admin afterwards. And she said, but you can override those filters for specific sites if your district administration supports it. She also said, I think it's more than hearing it from the experts regarding what you were talking about, Jess. The experts can provide stories and examples of how they're doing it and how it's working, but how they manage those concerns. That is what is reassuring. Mm-hmm. I also got a tweet from Bill Brannick, who is coach at CoachB0066 on Twitter. And he says that my school has two primary pages, his page and the school page. They use both to make announcements and provide information. So thank you I'm going to make sure to tweet him right now.
Well, it's interesting, the information part, because after Sandy Hook Elementary situation happened, which are actually closing in on the year anniversary of that, unfortunately. Yeah. I do remember we would have some different meetings to reflect on all that. And one of the things they said about me and as the leader of the building is they're like, you're so open and honest with all the information that you put out there. And we think that's great for the parents because, like, on our blog, we have a weekly, overview. So they'll say, perhaps you don't need to put where we are at all times. So we're going to have an assembly at 9:30 in the gym. Could that be, construed as giving too much information to somebody who didn't have the right idea? So I started to become cognizant of that and just leave a lot of that stuff out. And then in the district email, that was specific just for the teachers, obviously I would let them know, okay, here are the couple things that I'm not putting on the Bacon blog this week because, I don't want it out there either. And then it's funny because we would have certain parents, not bad at all, but they follow the thing. So they'd be there if we had like a 2 o'clock, outdoor, kickball game or something like we were just doing for the kids. We'd have, a few people show up, and I think some of the teachers started getting a little annoyed with that because they're like, well, this isn't necessarily an event where we're trying to get parents at. Like sometimes you just want to do things as a school, Mm-hmm. How about you, Jess? Do you put like everything that you're doing out there when you're for your parents to see?
No, I don't. And even last year, I never posted pictures because we didn't have that social media release form, and I just was kind of nervous about it. Mm-hmm. So, but I did the backwards way that I posted things on our website, and then I linked from the Facebook page to the website. And I do post a lot of pictures on the website, and I tell them it's the window into our world for them to see all the great things that I see. But I try if there's an upcoming event that parents need to know about, I try to make sure to always have that on Facebook.
Oh, it looks like I just saw a tweet from Dr. Bill Brennan, who just recently finished his dissertation, did a lot of work on social media and connected principles. So welcome to the show, Dr. Brennan.
Yeah, I enjoyed having that conversation with Bill when he was doing his dissertation.
Oh, I was in that too.
Yeah, that was fun.
Cool. All right, so how about we sort of transition into one thing? Here's an idea, just an article that I read over the week. we have a section called Keeping Current. We have one article this week, and it may tie in with our social media, because what if we, here's some thoughts here, what if we had a 4-day school week, every Friday was PD? What do you think about that? And also, what role could social media play in that? Jessica.
That is
this is a big question.
There's so many factors in that. Well, I mean, if you're taking away that school day, obviously the rest of the days have to increase in time, or you're having to have a longer school year, because I know in Wisconsin we still have to have 180 days. I have no idea what Jeff is doing right now. He's just distracting me. I have no idea what you're doing. I can't multitask, okay? What was the question? Yeah, I mean, we have to have 180 days, and you also have to have a certain time requirement. So I'm not sure how you would pull off that last day. And then if you're adding more days to the school year to be able to get that amount of time, does that mean teachers are working more days, and then they would also have to be compensated more days for having all of those PD days? I don't know.
Yeah, and then what do? You know, we just had Paula or Peggy just brought up a huge thing. You know, so much to consider. One big, huge thing is that the parents have to arrange childcare for that 5th day.
I know that would not work in my district. That would not work.
Peggy says they had early dismissal 1 day a week and got it by adding time to the other days so they could meet the time requirements. Craig says they've already taken quite a hit already in our district. Hours cut back tremendously. Yeah, it would be so, in a perfect world, it would be amazing to have an entire day every week of professional development, but I just don't think it's realistic.
No.
Not with everything that we have to do. And then, you talk about the kids now have a 3-day weekend. So as opposed to having 2 days between when they're going to school, now they have 3 days between when they leave school and when they come back.
And if you're in a high poverty district, which this would be a concern for me, how many of them are not eating good meals or eating really much at all over the weekend? So I want them in school.
Absolutely. It's that 5th day is really important to a lot of those kids, not, just like you're talking, not just for education-wise, but because they need it. They physically and nutritionally need it.
That's interesting. We're in a high poverty school. I thought about that. Yes, from the teacher's perspective and all that, it'd be awesome, phenomenal. But from the kids' perspective, it would definitely, I think, be troublesome. We experimented a little bit in the spring of last year. We had some extra money, and we tried the 6-day week, where we brought kids in for half day on Saturday for like a Saturday success program. Kids were awesome, and they were there early. They loved it. The parents loved it. We could do different things. And it was kind of like a little bit test prep, but we were able to, in my opinion, just increase the amount of time, where kids are learning and they're engaged, but they say that in the future, not all the learning is going to happen, in the 4 walls, the classrooms. So as far as blended and all this different stuff, which I'm sure we'll get into at a different time, and I'm not exactly sure where elementary falls into place with that. So looks like we'll transition into our 5th part of the segment tonight, and that is principles to follow. We'll start with Teresa. Why don't you give us your principle to follow and why and where we can find them?
My principle to follow is actually, for those of you who are listening that don't already know, we had an original episode that was not played on TeacherCast TV, and it ended up, we tried to record it on our own, and it ended up just being a podcast of me the whole time, because I thought that I had everybody's, long story short, we didn't end up using it. And I really feel like the person that I chose for my principle to follow during that first podcast is somebody that needs to be out. So whether or not that first episode ever gets released, I need to give a shout out to Melinda Miller, who is my principal to follow. She is at mmiller7571 on Twitter, and she is wonderful. I know Jess is really close with her. She has been a huge mentor. She and Scott Elias started the Principal Podcast movement, and she's amazing. She's so open to sharing.
On Twitter.
Yeah, she's awesome. So Melinda Miller is it for me.
All right, Jessica.
Well,
Looks like I think you have two.
now
Because
if you're gonna,
going back.
yeah, I did. Well,
I gotta
mean,
do
good
it.
point. If we lost that
Yeah.
first podcast, so that first podcast, if you don't ever hear that one, I gave a shout out to Kurt Reese, and I'll say Melinda Miller is my Twitter mother because she got me on Twitter, and Kurt Reese is my Twitter brother because he was for quite a while the only other Wisconsin principal on Twitter, and we joined up and started Twitter evangelizing around the state to get people on Twitter. So I call him my Twitter brother, and he is on the Techlandia podcast. He's getting his doctorate in I don't know, major tech education stuff, and has a great blog. And his school has been a school of recognition in Wisconsin for RTI. And he's just an all-around funny, great guy with all kinds of great information. And the other person I was going to share tonight is Amber Tiemann. She is on Twitter. She is 8Amber8, and she's actually an assistant principal, but since I just wanted to share her out because Amber and I are presenting next week at IPLI, and she has really great stuff on her blog as well, which is called technicallytiemann.com. But if you just find her 8Amber8 on Twitter, you'll get to her blog, and those 8s are because she is obsessed with oh my gosh, I totally just lost the name, and she's gonna kill me for this. The football player from the Cowboys that she's obsessed with, his number's 8.
Tony Romo? Tony Romo?
No.
No.
No,
The only player
no.
on the Cowboys.
Oh my gosh, she's gonna be so mad at me. And this is like, he's
He retired now, and
yes.
Troy Aikman.
Yes, Troy Aikman.
Oh,
Yes.
Troy Aikman.
Yeah, the 8 is for Troy Aikman, and she met him and blogged about that recently just for fun.
That's cool. So
right.
If Jessica is my Twitter mother, I don't know if you guys know that or not, and she looks very young though, doesn't she? And and Kurt, it would be my Twitter father because he's awesome, and both of them were very instrumental in helping me get started out here. And then, so I guess we make Melinda Miller is now a grandmother.
Which she really liked.
Not old enough to be.
Yeah, she really liked that the last time
she does. So, and I'm going to keep doing.
We'll call her a godmother.
I think grandmother, but anyway, Twitter grandmother. So this week, because I don't remember who I picked the first week, but the person I'm going to pick this week, his name is Dwight Carter. He is. Oh my goodness! I didn't.
At Dwight _
I'm sorry.
Carter.
At Dwight _ Carter, and he's definitely a 21st century high school leader in Ohio. He has this new building that they just built. Has a lot of information on that in his blogs and his Twitter feeds. Open classrooms, just phenomenal when you see the work that he's done, and I love his blogging because he's very philosophical with his blogs. He does a lot of things that are really deep, make you think about the things that are really important to not only being a leader, but a person, and how you connect with teachers. So that is my recommendation for the week. So as we wrap up, I just want to thank Teresa Stagger, who is at Principal Stagger, and please follow her blog at www.principalstagger.blogspot.com. You will learn a lot from her. She is phenomenal, whether she's sick, whether she is tired, whether she's playing an instrument. This woman knows how to lead a school. And then, of course, there's Jessica Johnson, infamous at Principal J, mother to myself. She has a phenomenal blog, www.principalj.net. I have stolen so many different things from that blog. You would never even imagine it. It would just basically superimpose all her leadership ideas.
Well, I just steal right back from you. That's totally fine.
You can find me at Dr. Spike Cook on Twitter, and my blog is drspikecook.com. So I'm sure somebody who's going to host next week will take the opportunity to get me back for all my little hosting nuances today. And I know I opened the
I think
show.
it's going to be me because Jess isn't here.
Oh, that's
I mean,
right.
unless you're okay with me popping in with Amber and Todd Whitaker with me.
I think.
That would be horrible. Oh God.
Would that be just
Todd
awful?
would be shifting monkeys around.
I don't know how to say, like, without bragging, like, I'll be having dinner with Todd Whitaker.
Yeah. I think you should. Well, we could Vox about that. So,
Okay.
And that's the other thing. If you're not on Voxer, get on Voxer. And the other person that I'd really like to thank, the silent partner in our experience here, is Jeffrey Bradbury, otherwise known as @TeacherCast. He is phenomenal. He is hosting our show, producing, editing. He also is part of the brainstorming team. And ladies, I mean, please say something great about this guy.
He's amazing. He spent so much time just trying to help us get this off the ground. He's put everything together. He tells us how to do it the right way to make sure that it works right. He sits here at 9:30 to 10:30 Eastern time watching us laugh and be goofy on a Google Hangout. And I think he almost enjoys it. So thank you, Jeff. You're amazing. We love you.
And he can Vox like no other.
That's the truth.
That is the truth.
I think he won the Voxing match yesterday.
This week he totally did. I figure we'll give it to him because it's his first week on Voxer, so it's still new. The novelty hasn't worn off. But Jeff, just an FYI, another 70-some Voxes in a day, and we're all going to have a chat. Just throwing it out there.
Okay, thank you, everybody. This was episode 2 of the PrincipalCast podcast, and we look forward to seeing you next week at the same time. If you want to connect with us, make sure you check out our blog at www.principalcast.com. Email us, info@principalcast.com, or follow the hashtag PrincipalCast, and follow us on Twitter @PrincipalCast. Thank you again, and we'll see you next week.
Thank you.